In this video, I will try to find guilty in the obesity epidemic, diabetes epidemic, and the addiction to junk food. Is there a primary culprit? Is this a person? We will try to find out right away. So do not forget to click on the bell and subscribe, Foodie Eyes. We are starting right now.
Substantially reduce their feed costs. You're identifying cows that can produce the same amount of milk as their herd mates, but they use less feed to produce that milk.
The United States supports the consumption of dairy products. The US Department of Agriculture recommends to consume 3 cups of dairy products for a day for a person over the age of 9. And prefer them low in fat. In Europe, the situation is similar. According to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization review, England, for example, recommends that its residents should drink milk and consume dairy products moderately when they are low in fat. Finland recommends 5 to 6 servings of low-fat milk for a day. Belgium limits milk glasses to 3 or 4 times a day and a slice or 2 of any cheese a day. Poland recommends drinking at least 2 glasses of milk a day. Surprisingly, research done in the US was found that low-fat milk caused more obesity than full-fat milk. It was found that children in the ages 9 to 14 who drink more milk get fatter. But the main surprise of the study was the fact that the children who drank low-fat milk were fatter than children who drank fatter milk. Another thing that was proven for sure was an increased risk of acne. A statistically significant correlation was found between the milk intake and appearance and worsening of acne. History of milk consumption. How do we know that our ancestors, the hunters and gatherers, consumed dairy products? Until the beginning of agriculture 10,000 years ago and the domestication of farm animals that produce milk, dairy products were never part of the menu of our ancestors. Also, 10,000 years are seen a long time compared to the life cycle of an average person, but it is in fact a very small part of the evolutionary timeline. A total of 333 human cycles have passed since we started domesticated animals and began to consume their milk. As a result, our species as humans have not experienced enough evolutionary knowledge to adopt food that is currently estimated at about 20% of caloric intake in the American diet. As a result of that, milk and its products have very great potential to affect our health in variety ways. In any case, the bottom line is, we are the only species on Earth that consumes the milk of another animal during its adult life. Humans do not need the milk of another creature to exist. So does every other mammal. Dairy products are found in almost all processed foods. Just take the time to read the ingredients of each product. More or less, any food that comes in a can, box, bottle, or wrapped in a plastic. Advertising of dairy products. Before we enter the science that lies behind the milk that affects our health, let's take a look at the dairy advertising campaign, the glamour advertising called in the US Got Milk. shows movie stars, sports personalities, politicians, and about every public figure you can imagine with what seems to be a mustache of milk above their upper lip. Why an Oscar-winning actor or a basketball star blindly supports a product they know nothing about? You cannot blame them for that. Like most of the public, he was born into a reality where dairy industries advertise dairy products as a basic nutrient. This is exactly the message that the dairy industries want to convey to the general public, because it sells more milk and dairy products. Is it a conspiracy that the dairy industry, exporters and CEOs want to harm our health? Of course not. In general, these people are like movie and sports stars who advertise milk unaware and believe in their product. They represent at least 2.6 million years of evolutionary wisdom. As it was with saturated fat, the question of whether people should or should not consume dairy products is divided into the scientific community. Because of the epidemiological and experimental evidence on human beings, the results are inconclusive and can be harmed for many reasons. Does milk prevent disease, or does it cause disease? Or is the answer in between? In an ideal world, this question can easily be answered by a well-controlled human experiment. One of the most prominent opponents of drinking milk was Dr. Frank Oski, who served as a chairman of the Department of Pediatrics at the New York State University. He wrote in 1977 an article, "Do not drink your milk," and preceded his time in decades. Here is a quote from the book. "The truth is that drinking cow's milk is associated with iron deficiency and anemia in infants and children. It has been associated with diarrhea in many of the world's population and causes several forms of allergy as well, and the possible cause which is a major role in the onset of heart attacks. There is no species of mammal, except humans and domesticated cats, that milk consumption continues after the infancy stage. Calves drink cow's milk. Cow milk is for calves."
Each of these babies was torn from their mother just a day after birth, so that the milk nature intended to feed them could be bottled and sold to us.
Evolutionary hints for cow milk consumption. When you look at the evolutionary pattern of drinking milk, it is abundantly clear that cow's milk or any other mammal was never intended to feed another species, including humans, during their adult life. It is specifically designed by natural selection to encourage increased growth, immune system support, and disease prevention in young mammals. Newborn calves, like most mammals, are helpless in the first hours after birth. They cannot stand, let alone escape from potential predators. In the first week after birth, they cannot search for food and depend almost entirely on their mother's milk for nourishment. Milk is designed to make young animals grow rapidly and to activate their immune system in order to prevent disease. All this process happens by giving hormones and other compounds in their mother's milk enter the bloodstream. This is an ingenious evolutionary strategy that encourages survival of young mammals at the beginning of their lives. This formula is a disaster when older animals, such as humans, consume the food intended for young descendants of other species. One of the cross-up signs is that something is a bit strange about drinking milk. And that is the fact that 65% of the world's population is unable to do so without experiencing gas, swelling, and digestive problems. Milk is a compound of carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Most carbohydrates in milk come from sugar called lactose, which breaks down into two sugars, glucose and galactose. When we consume milk, ice cream and other dairy products rich in lactose, it must be disassembled to these building blocks by an enzyme in our intestines called lactase. As I mentioned earlier, 65% of the world's population does not have the appropriate genes to produce lactase, so they are sensitive to lactose. The exceptions to this rule are people from Northern Europe and their descendants, because people from Northern Europe maintain high levels of lactase activity also in their adult life. They can dissolve the lactose into the two simple sugars and will not experience gastrointestinal problems after drinking milk. It was, by the way, a lie or a myth that was probably distributed in the West by people who wanted other people to consume milk. And that is the reason I remind you to subscribe this channel and get the best foodie videos on your main screen. Thanks for watching, see ya on the next.